What's up, Dr. Dell here. We're going to start a new series because I realized we haven't done any updates on all the major local language models, ChatGPT, Claude, etc., and their new features in a while, especially since so much evolution has occurred in each one. And so today figured I would start with Claude since, I mentioned that we're going to overview Claude's skills at some point. But I think it's best to just let's go back to the very beginning and work through what their pro plan is, which is their traditional roughly around $20 plan where all the LLMs sit for their entry level tier, and just walk through the features at a high level so you can actually see what the tool can do now and determine if it's right for you. So let's go to the big board. This, like everything, is the interface or the beginning of Claude. Almost all the LLM models now have kind of a really bare bones user interface with a chat feature, and then with the sidebar showing the things that you can do. And we'll get to all of these in a second, but this is kind of par for the course. You can go down here. But before we get into these, well, actually, let's start with these. It'll be the easiest. So traditional window, new chat, which allows you to obviously create a new chat. This is when you click on this, it'll show you the chats in your history, which is actually pretty interesting compared to, let's say, ChatGPT or Gemini. This way, you can go right to all of your immediate chats. You can do a direct search with chat. You can create a new chat. And so actually, this is pretty functional, I found, as it relates to the other GPTs, because most of them don't have this ease of search or the scroll function. You're usually trying to dig through the sidebar, and it can make it a little bit difficult. We have the project function, which many of you are aware of. You create a project that all of your chats for that project live in. You can set custom instructions for it. So, for example, if I hit new project, I'm going to say test project. I can describe it, and then I create the project, and it pops this up, and then I can do the traditional custom instruction things. This is a test for video. I could give it custom instructions, tell it how I wanted to respond, tell it what I wanted to do. I could upload files here, and then it'll keep all of the chats within the same function. So most of you are aware of that by now. One of the cool things that they have is actual artifacts. And so the artifact function of Claude really are things that have been created or you can create that you can go back and consistently use, like little prototypes of applications or things like that. Like you see a little Anthropic office simulator deal. I don't know. I've never looked at it, but it just has people simulating the office, I guess. I don't know. You can go to learn something artifacts, life hacks, play a game, all these different little things that people have created. You can create your own artifacts and keep them stored here. Like I have a few AI news search summarizer, things that, you may want to repeatedly do, kind of like your own mini app or mini app version, or your mini consistent project, kind of like a custom GPT to some extent, although more in a code-based format. So let's hop back out to new chat. So that was artifacts. Of course, code, many of us don't use Claude code, in our work, and that's okay. I don't use Claude code a lot. If I do, I use it in the traditional chat function. And so those are like the core primary functionalities. But where Claude is really expanding is if you go to settings, and let me get myself off the screen so you can see it. So like traditional, down the bottom, you have the chat. And if you go to settings, this is where you start getting into a little bit of the sausage making and additional functionalities of Claude. So general, obviously your name. This is a new account because I had a weird billing situation under my old email. So I created a new account, and you can start describing what you do, and it starts to customize it. Like your personal preferences, how you get notifications. Do you want emails, color schemes, and all of those different kind of things. And in preferences, this is where you can kind of set how you want it to produce content. If you want it formal, informal, your general standards. Account is exactly what you think it is. Privacy explains all the privacies. If you want to export data, manage data, share your chats. If you want to allow to, identify your metadata. I actually didn't realize that was set because I don't like them having access to anything but the bare minimum. And then if you want to turn off the training for Claude on the Pro plan, is this one. You just click this off so that you don't help improve Claude. You got your billing, which is what it is. and then you got your usage. And so this is a lot. One of the biggest critiques of Claude has consistently been that you just run into your usage caps so fast. And I think it's gotten a little bit better, but I'm still experiencing this when I try to do like a real project. Like in ChatGPT, I can go on and on and on. In Gemini, I can go on and on and on. But when I get to Claude, if I'm really getting into the work, I almost always hit a usage cap. And so this kind of shows you what the caps are for that. Capabilities. This is where they're really creating, some very interesting things. We already looked at artifacts, AI-powered artifacts, code execution, etc. This thing called allowed network egress. This is like a new training function. This is where we're going to get to Claude skills. So I'm not going to deep dive into this, but what this does is it allows it to actually begin to develop and manipulate files, and also to work a little bit with your computer to be able to support, those files. We'll show more on Claude skills on that, so we want to put a pin on that. Your memory function, I didn't know this was turned off either, because again, this is a new account. This, like ChatGPT, now allows you to search and reference chats within itself. So if you have a chat that you worked on, let's say a couple of days ago, and you wanted to try to find and reference that in the memory, it can now, to the degree it can, pull the memory. So going back to the skills, which is connected with the network function up here, you have the ability to upload a skill, which we're going to go in deep dive, but this is where you want it to be able to repeatedly do something like create, let's say, a legal template. You can structure all of that and put everything in one package, upload it into a zip file, and it will be repeatedly produce that. So I'll show you that later. So it's actually pretty interesting and cool. Connectors, we know that all the LLMs now are doing connectors. My primary ones are now I'm connected to my Google Drive, Gmail, and Google Calendar, but you have a bunch of others that you can connect to as well, like Indeed, if you're out there looking for a job. And then finally, we talked a little bit about Claude Code. And so that's a major overview. You can see that if I would have done the same video a year ago, probably 75% of that functionality, let me hop out of here. Probably 75% of that functionality on Claude would not have been there. They also upgraded to their new model. I guess I can show you that before we close out. So they have a couple new models like Opus 4.1, which is legacy, Sonnet 4.5, which is their newest. And then they just released Haiku 4.5, which is very fast and does a great job at quick answers. So kind of like ChatGPT, you can use the model which you feel is the most appropriate for what you're trying to do. So that concludes our overview of Claude and most recent updates. Today is October 23rd, 2025. And I have to always date these things because things change so fast that when we do the next one, we can reference back and show you how far it's evolved there. So if you are a Claude user and you love Claude, like I used to, and I'm trying to get back to love, hit a like, share this video. Let me know what you think about Claude and its new functionalities. Dr. Dell, I'm out.